Pain, struggle, disappointment, heartbreak, they are all real in the lives of a super achiever. Today's guest has been featured on more than 100 podcasts. And over the course of her decade, she has owned and operated a chain of very successful health clubs with over 200 employees. She has also managed corporate fitness facilities with the likes of Calvin Klein's Cosmetics, BMW, Verizon, and the list goes on and on. My guest is also co-founded a fitness professional. She's also co-founded a school that helps prepare over 3,000 fitness professionals to train and be certified in this craft. She has also completed on her own 25 certificates. And if I got this wrong in fitness, you can correct me. Fitness, wellness, nutrition, lifestyle coaching. She is also the mother of two, a 23-year-old Nicholas, a 22-year-old. How do you pronounce your daughter's name again?
Melina.
Melina. And she's also the poster child for one of my favorite quotes. When I say resilience has its own mentality, this young lady, my guest today, she is the poster child. On this episode of Talking Wit, WIT, Kevin and Son, not only will you learn the story of Kelli Calabrese, but you will also learn the habits of a super achiever. Today's episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is through the power of story is to inspire you, show you different perspectives, teach, learn, and create a framework. Our purpose is easy, it's hope, helping other people every day. So without further ado, let me introduce you to super achiever, world famous, Kelli Calabrese. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on the show. It is an honor, and I am so happy to be here.
You have no idea. It is an honor for me. I forgot to mention that you are a best-selling author multiple times. You have a couple books. I think is Passionista, if I said that right. Mom and Dad's Preneur. And then you are part of a collaboration with Kyle Wally. God,
Wilson?
my name is Wilson. Successful Habits of Super Achievers, which when I originally was doing all my research on you, I wanted to talk about and tell your story. But I also realized that people such as yourself, we don't get an opportunity to find out what you do, what motivates you, and why you do it. So every successful person has a whole plethora of things that move them, that make them, that they're consistent on. So we're going to talk today for our listeners, and this is going to be a treat. You're going to learn firsthand the secrets of success from a super achiever. So I'm going to open up, and I want you to kind of go back in your mind, and I'm going to create a picture. Earlier this week when I was preparing for the show, as I shifted, and I knew you were on vacation doing great things, but I always wonder, because people talk about leaving a legacy, and you have two wonderful children. If they were standing at the edge of the beach with their families long after you've gone, two bottles washed up on shore with notes to not only to your children, but to your grandchildren. Nicholas picks up his, Melanie,
Yep.
she picks up hers. I don't know why I can't get that name. And they each read a note. Can you tell me what you would write to your son, and then what you would write in that bottle to your daughter?
Yes, well, that's a great question, and no one's ever asked me that. Well, I would say to both of them, ultimately, let love win, because that's why we're here. That is what life is all about. We're here for connection, we're here for community, and to let love and not evil win every day. To both of them, I would say be strong, be courageous, be bold. You have a plan and a purpose on your life, and it is a good one. When you get knocked down, you get back up. You shake it off and you go through whatever it takes so that that struggle then becomes your strength. I would say wake up every day and ask the question, God, what can I do for you today? Rather than your own schedule and your own agenda. I would say don't compare. I would say don't let your circumstances determine your joy. I would say live every moment to the fullest with no regrets, that nothing is wasted. You're not ever too far gone, but everything will be used for beauty You just need to do the deep work to figure out what that is. So I don't know that my message to either of them would really be different for a boy versus a girl. They're both power filled. They're both independent. They're both super achievers in their own way. And while they're on a different journey, and at this season, I'm just here to cheerlead them. I think I really raised them very similar, as much as, you know, young men and young women have different roles. But the message would be similar.
That is that is powerful. I hope when both of your children see this interview, they get a chance to have this conversation with you today and be able to hug you and embrace you for the life that you've given them. And not only the life that you've given them, what you placed on their hearts. Because that's the biggest thing is, you know, from the very short period of time that I've known you and we've gotten a chance to speak, we are very much like-minded people. And that's the reason I'm so excited to have you on the show. If you don't mind, I am going to cheat a little bit. Give me a little bit of background on you and how you came to be. And then we're going to segue directly into your first level of being a super achiever.
Awesome. Well, I was born in New York in the Northeast, and it was a great place to be raised, two wonderful parents. And at the age of 13, I knew what I wanted to do. I wrote in my little diary, I will be an exercise therapist, among other things, which actually almost every one of them happened. But I took a pretty direct path to becoming a clinical exercise physiologist and was blessed to be able to get into health club ownership early on and to develop a chain of health clubs. And as you said, the corporate fitness centers, and to be able to be a founder of a school, because back in the early 90s, personal training and all of this was still so new. So really got the opportunity to be a pioneer. And about 14 years into that, my son was born, and I knew it wasn't the mom that I wanted to be, running around with, hundreds of employees in multiple locations. So thankfully, my partner bought me out, and I came home and I was pregnant right away with my daughter. They're 14 months apart. And I was like, okay, I still want to contribute to my industry on a really high level, but I also want to raise my family. So I started writing and speaking, consulting, editing, spokesperson, media work, really anything that would allow me the freedom, the flexibility to be the mom I wanted to be, but also to help the entire fitness industry to rise up, to be better at serving their clients, to be profitable, but also the consumer, that person who wanted to, lose weight, live longer, be healthier, be more vibrant. So I really worked on both ends. I always had programs for the person who wanted to be healthy, as well as for the industry. And that went on for many, many years. And I did move to Dallas 17 years ago. And then I also added doing outdoor fitness boot camps, which are just starting to happen in 2006, and was blessed to open up several hundred locations in multiple countries, help people to do that. And I started sort of accidentally doing network marketing with a nutrition company and became one of their top achievers. So that was a lot of fun. And then I guess the next turning point was 5 years ago, when my husband of 25 years came home and said, my commitment to our marriage is zero. And he left, and we were very quickly divorced, and he was remarried and reengaged in a moment. And that really took me to my knees and emptied me out and had me questioning my identity. And I went on this healing sabbatical for several years to do the deep dive of, who am I? How did this happen? How do I make this pain go away? And how do I reemerge, sort of battle tested on the other side of this, better able to help not only myself and my family, but as many other people as possible. So then I got certifications in mental health coaching and divorce care and so on. And more recently, I'm actually doing more business coaching in a variety of industries, and a little bit less on the front lines of the fitness industry.
All right. Well, everything segues into something else. And it's amazing. People don't realize, and this has been consistent with every single person that is achieving great things, not only in their professional life or in their personal life. They had to overcome something. All right. When you say, and it's hard for me to look at you, and probably people that see you going to look at you and going, what was he thinking? How did you bring, you know, the Mona Lisa down to her knees when she is admired by everyone in the world. But we do know that life is about chance and choices, so the struggle is real, the pain is real, heartbreak is real. And to be a super achiever, you've got to realize what may be your reality today is not actually your reality. And feel free to correct me. So, with that said, overcoming these hardships, and you and I have something in common that I don't think a lot of people know about. You have been in a severe car accident at one time. You were an athlete. Segue. So not only have you had to overcome emotional and heartbreak, you had to overcome physical heartbreak. How does that in line with the first line of defense when we talk about what a super achiever does?
Yeah, you need to be resilient. I mean, look, life is going to be hard. In the world, you will have trouble. In the world, there will be struggle, but it's up to us to get back up or not. I mean, we see people who don't get back up again, and your heart just breaks for them because they become victims. And victim is the absolute lowest level of existence. It's actually equivalent in energy to decaying. So you can choose to stay down and decay, or you can choose to get back up and use that to learn from it. So you never lose. You're always learning when you get back up again. It's a matter of how quickly can you do it. And the more you do the deep work, the more you're like, that's just a blip on the radar. Like maybe 10 years ago, that would have taken me down for months. But now it's like, okay, I don't have time to waste. I don't have time to be down. And you can accelerate that grief process a little bit because you've been through it now and you know how to get around it again. And so there is going to be death. There is going to be loss. There is going to be, opportunities that are lost. People take advantage of you. There will be the car accidents. You will get that phone call. Something will happen, but it's up to you to go, okay, what am I going to do with this? And yeah, I could be mad. Yes, some things are unfair, unjust. Someone takes advantage of you, a drunk driver hits you. Yes, be mad. Go through all of that. It's okay. Don't skip it. Be in shock. Be afraid for a moment. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what this means, what my future looks like. What is this going to do to my bank account, my business, my family? And then search. Okay, what's next? What's coming up? And there is some disorganization, and there may be some chaos, and there may be some panic or guilt or loneliness. You go through all of these things. But the more you do it and the better you get at it, then you're like, okay, I'm re-entering. I'm pulling out of this depression. I've got new relationships, new strengths, new patterns, new hopes, new affirmations. And the highest level of adjusting to things that happen are when you help others. So from the pain comes the passion. And you see that for a lot of people. So just in the example of my divorce, I wound up becoming a divorce coach because I know what it's like. Prior to that, I had friends get divorced and I didn't understand the depths of that until I went through it. And now that I have, I can help people who I'm ahead of. It's like if your house never burned down or you've never had an abortion or lost your mom, you don't know and that same level unless you've experienced it. But if you go through it and you don't get stuck or stopped or stick your head in the sand and you come out on the other side, now you can help other people.
And that's an amazing share. Before we go into your habits, I think we've already hit one of them. Create a next step. So no matter what life throws at you, accept it for what it is, deal with it, mourn with it, go through the 5 steps of grief, create the next step to bring yourself out of it. So you have several books out there. Before we go into your habits, I won't say 7. I know I don't want to limit you. How do people get in touch with you real quick? And how do they get in touch with, and how do they get copies of your book? Where are your books being sold?
Absolutely. So my website is always a great place where all things are. And it's my name, Kelli with an I, Calabrese, Calabrese.com. They can see just about everything there. And then it's my name on all the social media. So you can look on Facebook is probably a good place to find me, LinkedIn, any of those places.
And I'm going to tell you, I've read 99% of everything that she's written, unless she's got a new book coming out. And I hope you have a new book coming out, and you will announce that on this show. But I'm always curious, what pushes your button, what keeps you alive, how you thrive, and the things that calm you down. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to prepare you. Get pencil and paper ready. Sit back in your favorite chair, stop running the vacuum cleaner, pull over to the side of the road. A super achiever, Miss Kelli Calabrese, is going to tell you her habits of becoming a super achiever. Where do we start?
Well, before I even get out of bed, I start with intentions for my day and I speak life over my day. So I get to decide what is going to happen that day. And I believe the best about everything. So I'm speaking life over every conversation, every meeting, my drive time, my kids' drive time. So I'm just putting it out there that things will go well. So that's the talk that sets my day up for success. And I do my gratitude actually more at night, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. But before I even my feet hit the floor, I'm setting the intention for my day, believing it will go well with me and everyone that's I'm connected to.
All right. So step one. All right. Come up with a plan for the first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Exercise part of that.
Yeah, so after I speak life over my day, then the first thing I do is head to the gym. So usually it's an hour right now of some combination of strength and a HIIT workout. So a high intensity interval training, that's 7 days a week. When I get home from the gym, I do a 22-minute prayer walk. And that's just, I go around a lake and it takes 22 minutes. And that's my time just to be declaring what my prayers are, being open to hearing and receiving. I do gratitude as I'm walking around this lake, being in nature. So it's just quiet time that gets me away to receive what I need to receive for the day, to get my mind renewed and to have the intentions of the day. And then it's in the shower, and whether I'm working from home or heading out, I do, some form of hair and makeup and get dressed every day. I don't ever stay sloppy. I don't ever stay sweaty with, just the sweats on, and because that sets the tone for your day too. I never know when someone's going to, hey, can you get on a video call? And I just want to be ready to do that. If someone calls and goes, hey, can you come town and film something? I don't be like, oh, hold on, I got a shower. Just so I do every day, whether no one sees me or I'm on, national TV. It's pretty much the same. Then I get right into my work and I time block. So I always do the most important and urgent things first. So if I'm doing social media work for clients and I'm going to be doing interviews, I schedule things in time blocks. And then I do go out and visit some of my business coaching clients. So that's also very intentional. I have a plan and I am speaking life the whole drive time, the whole way there. Give me wisdom, give me discernment, let me see things I haven't seen before, give me the right words to say in each meeting. I mean, the whole way there, I'm just speaking, help me see the connections that need to be made. Let me see where things are being wasted. Show me where there's profit. Let's have a great negotiation. So the whole, if it's a 30-minute drive there, the whole time I'm speaking that. Then when I'm there, I stay very focused. So I like to multi-mode, not multitask. But when I get in a mode of doing something, I just do that thing until it's complete. And so then when I come home, I like to just reach out for friends just to see who am I led, who right now needs to hear an encouraging word. And I will spend time talking to friends who needs a prayer, who needs a word of encouragement. So I make sure every day that I reach out for at least 3 friends and I connect with them and let them know that I value them and I care about their life and we're doing life together. And then my daughter is actually with me right now, just temporarily, while she just took a new full-time job. And so we get to have dinners together. And then I will go out and walk again. and I'll do the same 22-minute walk, also in gratitude, but just again, being in awe of nature, the day, just being outside, getting out from under the fluorescent lights, always eating healthy throughout the day. I do enjoy cooking, and Mediterranean style is sort of what I prefer to eat if I had to just give it one word. And then at night I read, I journal, and the last thing that I do is I fill a page with gratitude every single day. So I will not close my eyes and I will not go to sleep until I fill an entire page with gratitude. And I also track everything I received that day, and I give it a dollar amount, and I also track what I gave. So if someone bought me dinner and then I babysat. In fact, today I'm babysitting for a friend who has a 3-month-old that the wife is going back to work, and they overlap, like 3 hours. They don't have a place for the baby. I'm like, bring the baby. Like that's going to be my time to give back today. And then just finishing asking for visions and dreams and ideas while I sleep is really the last thing that I ask for.
That is amazing. I'm smiling because a lot of your conversations reminds me about the conversations that goes on in my head, and it's so refreshing to hear someone else um, talk about things that they have to achieve and not say goals. Talk about a task at hand and getting that done. The one thing, and this is where I struggle. I got two things, and when I made my list, there's 12 habits that I have, and I failed miserably at the 12th. But the two things that one of the two things is creating healthy boundaries. I always feel like I want to save everyone, but when I speak to people, I talk about everyone can't be saved. There's some people that got to be left to their own device, and you got to let them go. My grandfather always said he didn't mind helping someone and giving them a hand. He just wasn't going to haul them around for the rest of their lives. And he said, when he got to the conversation, he told you you're getting heavy. My grandfather was prepared to drop you. How do you create healthy boundaries? You have so much wonderful stuff around you, but there's got to be that one person or some of those people that have been in your life that told you you're never going to make it. You can't do it, just because, or you're so lucky or whatever the case may be. I call them dream stealers. How do you deal with those people? And how would you advise someone that is trying to adapt a healthy mindset and using you as an example? What would you advise them?
Yeah. So thankfully, I've never really had you can't do it. This is too big for you. You're not big enough. I mean, in my own mind, I've done some of that, but I never from the environment had people say, you're not enough. I have had a lot of well, you could do it because you have a master's degree. Well, you can do it because you've been on TV. Well, you could do it because you've written books, or you're pretty, or you're made to do well in network marketing. Look at you. So I definitely did have a lot of that in my life. Some will call it whatever privilege, but you still have to get out there and earn it. You absolutely have to do the work. No one's handing you being on TV. I did a lot of media training. I went through abuse from producers and, people who really just pushed my limits to make me better on camera, to make me a better speaker. That doesn't just naturally happen. It takes practice. It takes work. It takes memorizing. It takes a lot. So everyone has to do the work. Even if you have some advantages, you still have to do the work. As far as boundaries, a lot of my barometer is peace. So is this giving me peace? If it's stealing my peace, then there's a good chance I'm not going to do it. And not that everything is going to be easy and effortless, but if it's really stealing my peace, that's one barometer. Another is, am I really helping them? The highest form of giving is to give someone opportunity. It's not necessarily to give them money, although I'm very generous and I give a lot of money. But you're not serving them. You're not helping them by doing that for them. And, parenting, I've made mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes like most parents, and I've also done some things right. And there's that, tipping point with the kids where you don't want to be doing it for them. You want them to do it. And I think I did pretty well with my kids with that. I mean, at an early age, they were cooking their, food and they were doing their own laundry. And I wanted them to be independent. And we did have housekeepers and nannies and all that too, but I wanted them to be able to get us to the airport, to the gate, find the car when we got back. I mean, I always had them, just making sure they can do those things. But with boundaries, we have to realize that we're all on a journey, and sometimes we're just meant to plant a seed. So maybe I'm not supposed to take that person to the finish line, but I just planted a seed. And then the next person will take them to the next level. But if it's really taking from me, pulling me down, stealing my joy, using all my resources, then that's not healthy for me either. That's not how it's supposed to be. I'm here to plant a seed. Some people we go longer with, other people it's just a moment. It's a conversation. We may never see them again, but anytime I have an interaction with someone, I want to plant a good seed that makes them think differently, live differently, lead differently, love differently, learn differently, do something better or different just because we had some interaction. But it might be the next person that takes them the rest of the way that's supposed to go deep with them. We can't go deep with everyone. That we don't have the bandwidth to do that. So certain people will come into our life for a reason and a season, just like they mentored us, we will mentor others.
I have a question. This is personal because I deal with this all the time, and people always they don't know what you are going through. And I always tell people to be kind to people because you never know what they're going through. I do a lot of work with people that are survivors of traumatic brain injuries. I suffer from it, so a lot of times I get comments, "Oh, you're reading off a piece of paper," or your eyes are closed," whatever. People don't realize is that having a mental illness, which I live with and I cope with, and a lot of times I get a pain that arcs while I'm talking on air, and it forces my head down until I get relief on it. I'm forgetful of things. It's like I can know how to spell a word, I know how to say a word or whatever, and then when I go to say it, my mind has a sense of humor, says, "Watch what he says." Um, but I also in business, and for some reason I don't like to touch things twice. I know when I started this podcast and went into incorporating myself, everyone's saying that you got to get 1 million likes and you got to do this. I hired a marketing team and I wasted a lot of money. I realized one thing about people with marketing is that the only person that benefits from writing a check from marketing is the person receiving my check. You can't make someone like you, can't make someone follow you, can't make someone subscribe you. And I always teach my people, I don't want to touch things twice. It means if I failed at one thing, I'm not going back to do it again because I realize how bad it hurt and I like to move on. I don't like to have pain twice. What are the things that you don't want to touch twice? Where do you not want to go again?
Yeah, looking back, there were definitely things that I stayed in too long. I went down with some sinking ships because I'm not a quitter and I'm a fighter and I'm going to figure this out. Like I'm smart and come on, there's got to be a way. And at some point, seasons end, doors close, and that means it's time for a new door to open. So you can ask yourself some good questions like, is this viable? Is this something I should do more of? Is it something I should stop? Should I start? Should I do less of this? So there's only 4 things that we can do with our time. And those are the 4 things we can stop, start, do more of, less of. So if you sit down and actually analyze those 4 quadrants about the thing you're trying to decide, it becomes really clear and really apparent to you if you should okay, this is the one, this is the idea. We're going to dig in, we're going to grind, we're going to, see this through. We're going to make it happen. We're not going to quit. Or you know what? Time to move on. So that simple exercise I've used several times. I've used it with my kids, whether it's deciding, do I stay in this college or do I switch? I mean, some of these things are big decisions. Do I date this person or do I not? And so that simple exercise of looking at it right in front of you in black and white. I mean, sometimes my son will get halfway through and he'll be like, got it. He'll just know okay, I've done this before. I understand what to do now. So having tools like that really help you to see, because some things you are supposed to go deep with. And, just for example, and this is not business, but let's say you have a parent who they're at the end of their life. Do you have a choice to stick them in a nursing home or put them in hospice? You do. Or are you supposed to walk out this last season of their life with them? The person who gave you life and they took care of you for 15, 17, 18 years. And everyone does it differently. You know, some people, it's the most beautiful thing and it's the hardest thing to do that, but that's what they feel led and called to do. And you have to have peace with it. If you've ever seen the book about the centenarians that was written by Buettner about the people who live to be 100 and older, one of the things they do is they are with extended family all the time. I mean, there's a design of the way things are supposed to be versus how the world today, because of convenience or whatever, we don't want to be uncomfortable, we do. So these are all decisions we get to make. And as long as you can feel good about it, as long as you can live with it, then you make the best of it. A lot of times it's just deciding and then making it work. So you can decide, you know what, I'm burned out. I mean, burnout is a real thing. I am done. I can't sell one more of these things or, you know, finish writing this book, whatever it is. And then you decide and you choose the next step. So it's not the same for everyone, but at some point, burnout is a real thing. And if it's diminishing returns, then it's time to let it go and move on.
You know, um, you've got to be clairvoyant. I just came back from visiting my mom, and you talked about um, life-changing events. And my mother's going through one of those. She's 89 years of age. She was diagnosed with something that's not going to give her a second chance at life. She has an option to do chemo if she wanted to. And at 89 years of age, you know, I'm trying to convince her to buy a little bit more time with her. And she told me, she goes, "You're the most selfish person I've ever met." And I said, "What?" She goes, "You know, why would you want me to suffer? Why would you want me to go through that? Whatever. I have 89 years old," the way she said it. And she goes, "You know, but this is God's plan. Let me live out God's plan. I'll be okay. When your time comes, you make the decision on how you want to answer this question with your kids. But you're being very selfish right now." And I had to realize, I said, you know, you're right. I wish I was that brave, that brave. And you brought that up. So I'm going to go to a happier point. I just had to get this out. I never want the interview to be about me, but you are a wonderful person. You know, I've had a chance to talk to you over and over again, and we've shared some things that we won't share here during this podcast. But there's another habit that you brought up. Every single person that has achieved great things in their professional life, in their personal life, always says this, and is consistent. I know when I had my head injury, I had to teach myself to read. When I became a published author, I always tell people the best way to keep a secret is to put it in a book. Successful people read. Kelli, why do you read, and what do you read?
Oh my goodness. My book list, I've got stacks of books. In fact, I was just away for 10 days in Europe and I love to read. I'm always over ambitious with how many books I think I'll read on vacation, but I am an avid reader. I always have been. I love to read biographies, you know, the true stories of the people who have gone through it and overcome so much. I love to read a lot of spiritual books, you know, just going deeper in my faith is probably the one I read the most, that genre right now. Of course, anything with, you know, natural regenerative medicine and vitality to live a longer, healthier life. I always love to read books on parenting, finances. So I don't just read novels. I think I may have read one or two in my life. Can't even remember what they were, but always I'm the Amazon queen and I go, okay, just don't order. In fact, here's one that just came. I give away several hundred books a year. I love to read all the time. I don't
Love
watch
to.
any TV. I haven't watched TV in over 30 years. So it's what I do in my quiet moments. It's what I do a lot of my day on Sunday is just take a Sabbath and read.
That's why you have such a beautiful brain. You don't allow noise into your head.
No, you
Oh,
can't unsee or unhear any of that. In fact, when I was on the plane for 10 and a half hours coming, you know, going to Rome and from Paris, I'm like, okay, you've got 10 and a half hours. Just watch one movie. That'll pass some time. And I watched about 20 trailers, hoping I would find one thing that after 2 minutes of a trailer, I'd be interested in. I'm like, wow, there's really nothing that I would watch. And I can't unsee the trailers that I watch. I mean, it just puts fear and horror, and there's bullying, and there's, you know, just so much horrific content that there wasn't a single thing I wanted to watch.
Kelly, I am going to take you off that no watch train
Okay.
very soon because I am producing a film of a screenplay that it is so much like the conversation we have. It's called The Deal. All right.
Okay.
It doesn't have any of the crap that has that normally has in it. No sexism, no racism, no depletion of humanity. It's all about kindness and love and
Love it.
discovering yourself. All this conversation we're having right here. You're surrounded by a lot of people, a lot of very successful people. Um, Starting out from nothing in order to have this circle. And I say collaboration is king. How do you find from the very beginning, how do you find that person that's going to help you get to the next step? How do you surround yourself with all these successful people that pour into you and you're receiving and you're pouring back into others? Collaboration is king.
It is. Well, like attracts like. So I've always lived in very nice neighborhoods. And when you live in a beautiful neighborhood, gated golf course, all your neighbors are pretty awesome. So you get to, network and do life with these people who are also super achievers in a variety of different fields. And I just think it's so cool what people do, because I've only done what I've done. So it's neat to meet someone who's just done something so interesting or incredible. I travel. When you travel to incredible places and you stay at nice, resorts and spas, you meet amazing people. When you fly first class, you meet amazing people in first class, and you need to be curious and you need to be interested and get to know them and be brave enough to have a conversation with a neighbor. I've also been in some very high level masterminds where people have been handpicked by the founder of the mastermind to be in this collaboration. And the mastermind people is what makes it. So you don't want someone in there who isn't going to be a match. And there's always some common ground for the mastermind, whether it's a certain industry or it's faith or a certain level of achievement people have that ties the group together. So you find your tribe and then you go with it. Bible studies. I've met amazing people, and I am a lifelong learner. So it would be odd to have a whole week or two go by without me being enrolled in some, full day or weekend class or retreat or some online program. So you connect with people through that as well.
Let me ask you a question going in your circle. What if you're one of these young ladies that didn't grow up in the gated communities that were able to fly first class? And I will tell you, I would never fly first class again because I was a passenger on a plane in LaGuardia that went off on the runway and I was chest deep in the water and I don't swim. So I will never do that again. And I realized that one thing about first class, you're the first person to meet God. That's a joke. Please don't hold me to it. Don't hate me. But I work with a lot of people in the inner cities that have a lot of potential. And because I came from a challenging life, but I always wanted more. And sports provided me with an opportunity. How does someone that has great potential, a great upside, that did not have the foundation, and she's looking at this interview, how do you speak to that person to be in that circle?
Right. And I certainly did not start there. And I have met the most amazing people in the back of the plane as well. And I have friends who are very, very wealthy who, live in a modest home and drive older cars. So it's not about the wealth. It could be the person in line with you at the grocery store, but find the person who is where you want to be. Now, this is your journey and yours is going to look different, but who has what you want or is where you want to be, and reach out for them. It is an honor when someone reaches out for you and wants to mentor you. Read the book, listen to the podcast, and reach out for them. There's so many books that the authors will say in the book, here's my phone number, here's my email, call me, write me. I mean, if the people are taking the time a year out of their life to write a book, they'd love to hear from their readers. So if you find a book that is helpful to you and this person has done what you want or has the skills you want to gain, you have nothing to lose by reaching out for them. The worst that'll happen is they won't respond, but go to the seminar, watch the TED Talk. It doesn't have to cost you anything at all to learn. I mean, the learning is really free, but then have the courage to reach out and have a conversation with someone who may hold you accountable. because that accountability is huge too. Always having an accountability partner in the area you want to grow. So I do for finances, I do for my fitness, I do for, relationships, different areas of my life. And sometimes in different seasons, I'll have different coaches or mentors or someone who's holding me accountable, because knowing someone is going to check up on you really helps to keep you on track.
It's always nice to have someone that's going to hold you accountable to the things you say and do. And I'm so glad you said, look in a book. There's people that will give you information, whatever. You're an author, and in 3 books, Successful Habits of Super Achievers, almost 90% of every single person in that book has provided you with their email address or direct phone number or a web link. So give it, and your books has the same thing. So if you can tell people about each of your books and how they can reach you, connect with you, buy your books, talk about the successful habits of super achievers, that by Kyle Wilson. You're in that book.
Yes.
Tell people about that book.
Absolutely. So the first book was Passionistas, and that was basically, what would you tell your younger self? So knowing what you now know, what would you say to, like you're talking about, that 21-year-old self, that young woman who's coming up now? And we were surprised at how many men were reading that book and really getting a lot out of it as well. So it was written with women in mind, but men get a lot out of it as well. The second book, which came right after that, was called Mom and Dadpreneurs. And this was way before COVID. It was about 7, 8 years ago. But this book was about the mom and dad, whether it's single mom, adoptive family, blended family, traditional family, where they had a passion to do something, but they didn't want to give up raising their family for their career. So they didn't want to be gone 10, 12, 14 hours a day, but they found a creative way to be the mom and dad they wanted to be, but still, achieve and contribute to their industry on a really high level. And then the most recent one, which actually it went bestseller 3 years ago this week, is Success Habits of Super Achievers. And that tells the story of over 80 people who, just like you and I, they had something difficult happen to them. They got knocked down, but they got back up. And not only did they get back up, but they did something amazing because of what happened to them. And they very vulnerably tell their stories in that book.
And you can contact 90% of those people in that book, which I've already reached out to a couple of your friends. Kyle Wilson is an amazing guy. He was the original founder of the Jim Rohn Foundation. I believe he helped started that. Amazing. Good friend of mine, Les Brown, is also featured in that, and many, many more. This is where I fall short. My list of 12 things that are part of my daily habits. I don't know where you fit in this, but I know it's one of those things that I've seen since the age of 14. In my head, I don't need rest. And I know you need it. What's your relationship with your downtime? Because you're looking for, the way I hear you talk, you're working 24/7 and looking for 2 more hours in the day. How important is rest to a super achiever?
I am big about rest. There was a book I read probably 12 years ago called The Rest of God. And it's about learning about, more of God. But when we rest is when God works. So if I were to look back at my calendar 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, every moment of my day was booked. I mean, I would look at my son's baseball schedule. Okay, I think he's pitching tonight. The game starts at 6. He'll probably be the closing pitcher. So if I can fit 2 more clients in, I get there before he pitches. I mean, that was my life. I was up at 4:40 in the morning. I was teaching boot camp. Every moment. I had 13 streams of income. I was keeping a lot of balls in the air. Now my life looks completely different. I'm in bed by 10:30. I'm up at 6:30. I have a lot of downtime. My day is much more led than it is forced. I'm not kicking down the doors, but I'm open. Like, this opportunity just came up to babysit, just a few hours ago, and I get to hang out with a 3-month-old for a few hours this afternoon. I'm so excited about that. I didn't know that was going to happen when I first woke up. So my day is much more organic, and I like to be open to not always my plan, but the best plan. And sometimes my plan isn't the best plan, and I'm much less rigid. I used to be more perfectionistic. That went totally out the window. And it's just, there's nothing more beautiful than being present and being in the flow. So in this season of my life, I do have a lot of downtime, and it's beautiful. I use it to read. I do a lot of serving. I serve with church groups. I have a singles group that I is basically a ministry. I still do things with divorce care. But I ask myself, each season, do I want to teach that this season? Do I want to do that Bible study again? And if the answer is no, I mean, even I just got a wedding invitation. I'm like, okay, do I really want to go to that wedding? I think about my relationship with the person, and what is the commitment to me going? Okay, it's an hour and a half away, it's this long, and I like to decide and be led about if I should go or not. Like, is it important that I'm there for me or for the person, or am I going to say yes to something that I'm going to regret later? And sometimes I'll commit to something, not a wedding. If I said yes, I would go, but I'll call up and go, you know what? I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I can't do that. If it feels heavy, or it's weighing on me, or I just know it's causing stress or animosity, or it's not the best use of my time, we can say, oh, I made a mistake. I'm not going to do that. So that's why I really take that peaceful pause before I commit to anything. And I do look at my sleep. But because I'm so rested and so healthy all the time, I could come back on a 10.5 hour flight and get right into my routine without missing a beat. The no jet lag. When you stay healthy and rested and in peace, you can handle a lot more. I can, stay up all night and pray for someone at the hospital if I need to, and it won't affect me because I am rested.
I am so glad you said that, and especially the last statement about saying yes to things that you normally would have to come back and say no to. It took me getting a concussion and having to delete people from my Rolodex, of people that I've always been there. And I said, I'm not living my life going forward saying yes to things that I will say no to later. And I'm glad you found that space. You've said several times during the course of this conversation, I won't say interview because I'm going to say conversation, because that's what Talking with Kevin and Son is all about. And you're someone that we should know. And that's the whole platform of my show. But you talked about faith. Everyone, you know, um, when you talk about what you believe in, your faith, they shy away from it. They don't admit, they're embarrassed by it. But you've said it multiple times during the course of this. What's your connection with your faith?
Yeah, so I grew up Italian, New York, Roman Catholic. So much of our culture really determines our faith. But when I moved to Texas and the buckle of the Bible Belt here, it was just sort of an infusion of me meeting people going, wow, they have something that I don't have, that I'm attracted to, that I really want. And so I got to know what that was. And that was being filled with the Spirit of God. And that was new to me. So I was like, okay, these people, they're running businesses, their kids are doing crazy things too, but somehow they still have this peace and I don't. And I want that. So I went on a quest, and I went to every possible Bible study, and I went on the retreats and just studied and got a personal relationship with God that I didn't know was possible. And then the divorce took that to even deeper levels where I needed to peel back a lot of layers. I needed a lot of healing. I needed to know who I was as a child of God, not as a title of wife. I needed to learn forgiveness like I never had before. And really forgiving myself was even bigger than forgiving my ex-husband. I needed to know how to renew my mind. I needed to understand that I still had purpose, that there's abundance of wealth that is met according to God's riches, not mine. So the more that I read, one of the very first scriptures that I read when I started this deep dive was, be anxious for nothing, but in all things with prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving, cast your cares on God. Like, put them at the foot of the cross, give them to him. Like, this is, too big for me, or I don't understand this. And having that faith that you can trust God And so my life scripture became trust God and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. So I have seen far too many miracles not to believe. God has shown up in the biggest ways. He's touched me personally, and he's a miracle making God. He still is. He's still answering prayers. And you either believe all of what is said or none of it. There's no, straddling and being double-minded. So I choose to believe, and I believe I'm correct in believing there's a great big God that created us and sent his son to save us, and that there is a place called heaven that we can get to. And our time here is really temporary, but it's still pretty serious that, we make the best possible choices while we're here, because there is a plan and a purpose to us being here. And I don't want to miss it. I just don't. I want to be on the edge of my seat. Kelli means warrior. So I want to be battle tested, and I want to be a warrior for God's kingdom, not in a religious and sensational way, but in a really relational way, because I hate what God hates. I hate divorce. I hate pornography. I hate murder. I hate all those things. And I love what God loves, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. He has good things for us. So when I see people suffering, it started out physically. I hated when people were sick and obese and diseased and hurting, but really it's in every area. People are suffering in relationships, finances, professionally, and I just don't want the enemy to win. So I want to help as many people as I can while I'm here.
Through that. And I hope this story, this interview opens the eyes, opens the doors, opens the hearts, the people that are ready to receive. My grandfather told me, he says, if you take the average person took 3 of the 10 commandments and they adhere to that, and they can committed to it consistently every single day of their life, humanity would change. Pick any 3, humanity would change. Just pick 3. Is that simple? And the fact that you've connected, I love what you said. It's beautiful. I was going to ask you what your favorite quote was. I think you delivered it. I don't have to ask you twice. I think people are going to remember it. They're going to write this down. They're going to play this interview, this story, your story, over and over and over again. They're going to listen. You're going to touch someone's soul. You're actually going to change someone's life, be it male or female, be it young or old. You're going to change someone's life. I know since I've known you, your shine has brightened my day, no matter how dark it's been. And when I first met you, I was going through a dark time. We talked about that. We covered a lot of information here. We talked about, I'm going to, wrap this up and ask you, the takeaways, and to kind of give you a brief summary of each step that you have. But I'm going to have to ask you this. And if you don't want to answer it, it's fine. But since I've been doing this show, and this is God's work, and people hate hearing me say this, but I believe God put 2 people in a space for a reason. And it takes a fool to walk away and not say hello. Miss Kelli Calabrese, hello. All right.
Hello, Kevin.
I am no fool. And you can remember that. My business card says hello. But when I first said this, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't want a 1,000,001 followers. I didn't want 1,000,001 subscribers. I was looking for people that were like-minded people that had a higher call to action. And the first time I asked this question, I had no idea what the response was going to be. But out of the 2 years I've done this, and with this show, I've almost done a little bit over 100 episodes. I've had 4 people that follow this show. When I say the people that follow and subscribe to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page, they don't drive by an accident. They stop to help. I've had 4 people have their life's wish granted to them by 4 strangers. So if I was to ask you what your ask would be, if someone can basically, and you have everything, and the reason why I say you have everything, because you have love, you have kindness, you have grace, you have gratitude, you have service, and you have your faith. But if you can ask one thing, and it's being granted by someone human, what would that one thing be?
I love this question. And you have not because you ask not. Ask and it will be given to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. And I do have so much. I am so richly, richly blessed. And I have not said this to anyone, but since you asked so many great questions today, I have been divorced over 5 years and I have not dated, and that has been very intentional. I am absolutely enjoying this season of singleness and being able to hop on planes and go to Europe and just be available for whatever. But at some point in the future, I would like to be married again. And I would love to be married to a godly man who has the same core values that I do. So not that anyone is listening, you never know, but someday I would like to be married. So if people could pray for that, I'm not anxious about it at all. I know God already has him picked out and it will happen in his timing, but that is a desire of my heart that I have not yet asked for, because I'm just not anxious about it.
Well, I'm confident God is going to grant you your wish in his time frame. I'm because you're ready, and someone's got to be ready for you. I mean, we talked about the little book I wrote, Dating with the Full Deck. Someone's got to be ready for you. They're going to be 90% of where they need to be, but they're going to be open to the 10% of getting to where they need to be in order to stay with you and to be able to share that life.
I agree.
Um, like I said, we covered a lot of information. What's the takeaway from the things that you have given? And if you can give a quick summary of the things that, so someone can write these down in order of your super achievers list. Go ahead, fire away at that list.
Yeah, I would say identify your problems and figure out a way to solve them. That will get you unstuck and unstopped from whatever it is that's holding you back. I would say that your past does not equal your future. Peace is a great barometer when you are making decisions. So if it gives you peace, do it. If it doesn't give you peace, don't do it. I would also say, and I didn't mention this, but get help. Sometimes you want to be Miss or Mr. Independent and do this all on your own. Get a community of people around you that can hold you up, that can sharpen you, that can strengthen you, that can encourage you, that can speak truth and life and love into you, that will challenge you, because everything you have in your life right now is a result of the current beliefs that you have. And the beliefs become the thoughts become the words become the actions become the habits, and the habits become the identity. So if you want to change that, it starts with your beliefs. So dig into truth to get better beliefs. Surround yourself with people who are wise and credible and discerning that can help you. Write things down. It's tremendously helpful when you put things out on paper to help you make decisions. And definitely stop being a victim if you find yourself there. Get yourself out of chaos. And you are in control of not a whole lot, but you are in control of your thinking and your environment. So, what in your environment do you need to change, clean up, adjust, make new, that can help to get you to that next step where you want to be in your future?
Ladies and gentlemen, super achiever, Kelli Calabrese. I want to thank you. I want to thank our listeners for listening. I know you're super stoked for meeting this young lady. I know most of you are running out to buy her books now. You're trying to figure out a way in order to hire her to speak at your women's group or your college graduation, or just figuring out a way that she can mentor you, or you can just steal a little bit of advice from her. If you like what you've heard, go to our YouTube page at RMK Productions and Network, subscribe and follow. And remember, if you got a higher call to action, we want you part of our team. If you just enjoyed the show, continue to listen, view, and share. If you would like to be part of this show or be a guest, go to info@rmkproductions.org, fill out the information, and I will be more than happy to personally reach out to you. Kelli, I'm going to tell you, my grandfather always said, when you get to a point in your life, you can help someone else out. He says, reach one, teach one. It's your duty to do so. And with that said, we'll fade to black. And thank you for being on the show, Kelli.